This is the Board of Sewer and Water Commissioners meeting, Monday, September 23rd, 2019. The abatements, have we signed them all, Patrick? Okay.
They are signed.
Minutes of July 22nd. Any changes, corrections? If not, I'll entertain a motion to accept the minutes of July 22nd.
Second.
So moved.
Okay. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So voted. What?
I abstain.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry. That is 401. Minutes of August 12th. Again, any changes, corrections? Being none, I'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes of August 12th.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain?
Aye.
All right, 401. Okay. Next item, Superintendent Status Report. Bernie?
Good evening, Mr. Chairman. So we have our rate study group, the Abrams group, was actually at the office today. They're downloading the information that they need from Munis. And he would like to come in and, well, I know that you want an update, and he has some dates that he will be available to come in to see you. You don't meet until the 28th of October. So we can, he's given me 6 dates here in October that he can come in, and if you'd like to schedule him to come in, and he can give you an update on his status.
Okay.
So I'll present that to you, and
The dates are Thursday, October 3rd, 10th, Tuesday, October 15th, Thursday, October 17th, and Monday, the 21st. 21st, is that Columbus Day? maybe?
14th is a Columbus
14th.
Day.
Columbus Day.
And any night after, I guess, the 21st. Is there a,
They're all good.
Is the 21st a regular meeting?
no?
28th,
28th.
So it would be like the week before.
but you have town meeting too.
That's true. So that one is not going to, Wednesday, the 21st is not a good date. So,
So we can't do it the following Monday, according to you.
10, 3
Well-
is fine. And 10 is fine, 10, 17. They're all good by me.
all right. Any other dates that are issues? How about the October 10th, a Thursday? Is that
Thursday the 10th?
Thursday the 10th? Okay. Hearing no objection, we'll shoot for the 10th. Mary, you can set up
Do you want
meeting.
it just for this particular?
Yeah.
Do you want to, so you want just for an update for that? Do you want to add any other agenda items for that night?
Mary, if you see that something is important,
Okay.
we can add in, but the purpose will be for getting an update from the Abrams Group.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Okay, very good. So,
I'm
Okay.
sorry, Bill, do you want meetings posted before town meeting? I can always post
Yeah,
them.
put it on, and I don't think that we'll have a need, but
All right, I'll post them anyway.
it's always better to post it.
I have 2 questions for the superintendent.
Sure.
Well, actually, one for the assistant superintendent. Did you go to Wellesley and check out the permanent credit filter that they use?
No, that wasn't a permit filter, that was for another project.
Okay.
For the waste basin system,
Okay.
they have a treatment plant that's a system plant to us, it's right at the same time.
Okay.
So they went through a lot of the same problems we did. We want to see that, and also their backwash pump controls.
Okay.
Right now, ours are at a fixed speed, and that's changed to the VFD.
Yeah.
More control, start slower, stop slower.
You take anything away from that?
We haven't had the meeting, and I called them
Yeah.
back at the time, I first contacted them, they're going through inspection with the DP, routine sanitary survey, so they're a little busy with that.
Okay. Just wondering. There's no rush, I just, yeah, see if
Just
there's
want to see the course.
That's great, yeah, no, of course, yeah. And then a quick question for you.
Sure.
You were at the Baker Street meeting, and we're gonna talk about the Sharon connections, McMorgan's and the other residentials, and they were gonna potentially take those back. I'm
Right.
just curious if that happened, and
It has not happened yet. We're still
meeting
involved.
itself,
We're still involved in laying that main,
Mhm.
and, you know, we have to, we have to take a look at, and to see if the town is gonna take them over. We believe they will,
good.
but it's just a question of the logistics right now.
Yeah,
That's all.
Okay.
But we did have the
Wondering-
preliminary meeting before the construction started.
That won't, there won't be an update on that for months, or?
That probably won't be for, I'd say, another 3 to 4 weeks.
Okay. Thanks.
Okay.
Continue.
Sure. So, in the time that we've been away from each other, we've had one service renewal on Diamond Street, we've had one service leak on Alton, and we had one ring crack on South Street with an 8-inch main. Wright Pierce has filed the grant that I was looking for the SRF funding, for the asset management. That's going to allow us to GIS all the gate valves, the hydrants. It's going to lead up to the unidirectional flushing program. We'll know later on this fall if we made the list of eligibility, and then in the spring, they'll give us enough time to let us know exactly how much money that will be awarded, so we can also plan on that for town meeting as well. So the permanent curtain for the lagoon at the Willis plant was installed. This is actually a temporary permanent, if I may, because actually we're trying this out as a preventable access for the total suspended solids that has been going over the weirs. So we've done our preliminary testing. It's indicating that it will remove, and we will be in compliance with the DEP and the administrative consent order that we're under. We're also doing testing inside the plant for our residuals and our recycled water. We've been working with Aquagenics and Ali Parand, and we're going forward to see if we can not only use more coagulant, polyaluminum chloride, but we're also looking to see if we can change our pumping rates and speeds and so on and so forth. And Scott, if you want to add anything to that, if I've missed anything on that?
That is most likely.
So we're in the process of that right now, but the curtain is up, and it does seem to be working. The lagoon isn't totally full. It'll be nice to actually see when the water level rises to the point where it's actually going over the weir, so we can get a little bit better of an indicator if that's gonna work. But all preliminary indications look like it's gonna work very well, which will help out, because, like I said, we're under administrative consent order to get that fixed, so. The Common Street main replacement is going very well. They've got Common Street in, it's been pressure tested, chlorinated, it was sampled today, and now they're moving down Baker Street as well, so that's all coming together very nicely. We continue with our water distribution maintenance. And John had asked me to reach out to our representatives for support with the Water Management Act and so on and so forth, to see if they could come in to give us a presentation, or at least so we could have a one-on-one conversation with our needs and so on and so forth going forth with the Water Management Act. Unfortunately, no one reached out for a commitment in that, and I still will continue to reach out to them to see if we can come together, possibly, you know, as early as later on this fall or early winter.
Just so you know, I met with Paul Feeney. He had open office hours at the Walpole Library.
Okay.
So I went there and I talked to him about this issue and
Yep.
told him that he would be hearing from us. And he was receptive. You know, he wants to help, so.
Well, I know Paul very well.
Yeah.
I've known Paul for a couple decades now, so, and he did help me when I was over in Superintendent Norton as well. So he's on board, but for some reason, they just didn't care to take up the invitation.
Okay.
Bernie, that Common Street project, where it goes around the corner there,
Yeah.
town of Sharon chipping in on the road repairs there?
No, this is our main job, John. They have their one trench that they've already done because they've installed their water main.
Right.
But as far as written in the contract, there's been nothing substantial from the town of Sharon.
Okay.
And we have a new proposed 40B on Summer Street that's in the preliminary permitting stages, just to let you know that that's coming up as well. And that's about all I have for you.
Anything to add, Scott? Okay. Dan, do you want to go 5 minutes ahead of schedule here?
I would love to.
All right. We have a 7:15 appointment, Dan Merrickin, and it's Bid Cars Boston.
Are we legal?
Mary, do you have the plan?
Yeah, I think we're legal starting before. That's not a public hearing or anything. It's just a presentation by the developer. Unless, Mary, you have,
What's that?
there's no problem with starting 5 minutes early. John, I didn't think so. It's not a public hearing.
Not a public hearing, right.
Okay,
Thank
you're on.
you, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission, Dan Merrick, Legacy Engineering. You
But
guys
just
asked,
before you start, can you see with the camera, maybe you, okay,
Yeah, if you want to rotate it a little bit, that'd be better, but, yeah, that's fine.
good, okay. Okay, thanks.
you asked us to come in on our site plan application for 623 Boston Providence Highway. This is a project, we have submitted a permit application with the planning board and the conservation commission and zoning board for this. This is an existing used car lot, used to be Denim Auto, now it's Big Cars. It's just north of the Big Y, Route 27, Route 1 intersection, a couple lots up. You have an existing building, existing paved area where they store cars, looking to construct a new building. So tear down the building, build a new building for the same use, same purpose, and then expand the paved area for the storage of vehicles. We had an existing stormwater management system that we designed a couple years ago when they built. They're gonna redo it and go underground with it. We have a water service connection already to the building, so that's gonna be maintained, and the property is on septic, and we're gonna replace the septic system.
I have a question, in the letter from the, I guess it was to the chairman of the planning board, in the overview, it says, the site does not have municipal wastewater, but does have municipal water which is served from an adjacent lot.
Yep, there's a water main that runs from the road out back, which, I can't remember the name of it. Wampatuck. There's a main that runs through easement from Chickatawba, Wampatuck, and it comes through on the adjacent property in an easement down to Route 1. So we have a water service off of that main. Our water service comes in off of that main, which is on the adjacent property, comes in this way, connects to the existing building. There is sewer on the adjacent property, and it goes out behind S&E Auto and the Russian School of Math and all that, but we don't have a direct connection to it. We tried to work something out with the person who owns the adjacent property, and it didn't work out, so,
So the existing building has water,
has water.
okay. Now, it wasn't just clear, the way it was written, it seemed like potentially you were
No,
feeding it through some other lot.
the existing building has water,
Okay,
and we're just gonna use that water.
It's coming off a water main, though.
Yes,
How big is that water?
8 inch.
And I saw that you were gonna have two 3/4 inch services to go to 1 inch and a half service?
Well, the existing, that's what the record plans say are out there today.
Okay,
So I have a service card that says that that's what's going on today. We're not changing it. We're basically just gonna pick up the service and connect it to the new building.
Okay.
That was our plan, not to do anything, not to change the existing.
so it's just a
system.
continuation of the
Yeah.
service?
Yeah, I got all that information from available record information.
Why are you staying with the septic and not going with the,
We don't have access to sewer.
huh?
We don't have access to sewer.
You don't have that anyway?
No, the only way would be to work something out with an abutter. There's sewer out here in 27, there's sewer back in Chickatawba and Wampatuck, there's sewer on the adjacent property, there's no sewer out in Route 1. The applicant approached a bunch of these people, couldn't work something out, so septic it is.
okay, it's not in an aquifer area.
No, it's not.
I just was wondering,
Glenn?
do you have plans for a car wash?
No
Outside?
car wash.
Okay.
Anything else, Glenn?
No, that's all for now.
John?
I'm good.
The other John? Patrick, anything?
It's probably in here someplace. How many cars are gonna be here?
209.
And I see you have grease traps, and is that what this is?
That's stormwater pre-treatment units. We're actually gonna upgrade them at the request of the town engineer to a proprietary treating unit. And then they will capture all the runoff from the park paved areas, and then that will go, after pre-treatment, go into an underground infiltration system.
And none of that will run onto Route 1?
No.
Because that would be a wash.
Could I ask you a question?
Yes, go ahead, John.
Just tweak my memory. I think it was SME that had asked the Economic Development Commission, they were concerned the town has a zoning
I think
regulation.
It's gonna win.
The car
see that.
dealerships have to have their cars 30 feet back.
50 feet back.
I'm betting on it.
Now, is that a problem for this guy? Because I know the other fellow, he said it severely constrained his lot area.
It constrains the use of the land, for sure.
50 feet, that's, yeah.
Yeah, along
Did
Route
it
1.
used to be 30 and they changed it to 50, or?
No, it was always 50, but Route 1 was widened 20 feet back in 83 or 89, I think it was, 89. So, you know, you have a bunch of uses up there that are well within the 50 feet. They're all pre-existing non-conforming, and it's just kind of messy. I would love to see that zoning bylaw change.
Yeah, auto mile's 2 feet.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know that 2 feet's the right number, but
No, I'm
50
just saying,
50 feet's a
50
lot.
feet's
It's
a lot. I
of
mean, it
feet.
takes up a big portion of his lot. It's a shame. It's a
Yeah.
business, and it's obtrusive that they can't park their cars in front of people seeing them. Thank you. I just-
Anyone else have any questions? Otherwise, this is from the Board of Appeals. We entertain a motion that we send a note to the Board of Appeals that we have no comments, that the applicants appeared before us, and that we have no concerns.
I'll second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed, abstained? All right, 5-0-0.
Thank you. for
Thank
your
you.
time.
All right. Next up. Well, I don't think we have the folks from Optima, and I think Jim was going to be coming, so why don't we jump down to comments? Comment requests. Number one is the planning board, and this is the definitive plan for the Bristol Brothers. This is the one off of Bryn Mawr Road. From our standpoint, they had an issue.
As long as we stay with, I believe, is number
Right.
3, then we were gonna be fine.
Yes, I looked at the plans, everything was as it was
As noted.
originally, before they discovered that they were building on the
Someone else's property?
Edison's easement,
Right.
so.
Yeah, as long as scenario number 3, I believe that the board was okay with scenario number 3.
And I think we sent them something to that effect. When was that?
August 13th.
Yeah,
And does that affect, now, I'm trying to, this is the one where we had 2 entrances for water?
yes, they're going to connect a 12-inch line that currently ends on Main Street, come down Norfolk, which will address their fire flows, as well as the fire flow issues that we have in West Walpole. And they are going to, so they'll be coming in off of West Street. They'll also have it from Bryn Mawr Road. So there is a partial loop. They do have a part that extends further along, which
Which
we've
is a
talked
dead
about
end.
that, and they're gonna put a stub. They've tried to get the owner on the other land. Can't ask him anymore.
Right.
So I would say that we could just stick with our
Scenario
August
3.
13th memo. So I'd entertain a motion that we have no changes to our August 13th, 2019 memo. Is there a second on that motion?
Second.
All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? So voted. And I see we do have folks from Optima, but we don't have Jim. So we wanted to be here, so we're going to keep going. Correspondence number 2, that's Optima, so let's hold on to that. Correspondence number 3 deals with Burns Ave, and there was a revised plan. Our concern was how they were doing the sewer and water. I don't believe they've made any changes.
They have not.
And that is gonna be a loop, is that correct? Running from Burns Avenue out to
Union.
It is.
Yes,
right?
yes.
Unless anyone has any additional comments, we could send a note to the Board of Appeals saying that we have no additional comments. So I'll make that motion. Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Abstained? We have another correspondence.
Is this one, well, that's A11?
We're done.
Right.
Okay.
A1 Shelby?
Yeah, correspondence 1, I think that's just a read and noted. This,
Well, correspondence-
Oh, wait a minute, no, this is the...
This is the sewer line that's on Pine
Yes.
Street that is affected by Rojo.
Yes,
I have some information, and I have a small drawing, if I could pass this to each and then
Thank you.
go over this really quickly.
this is an issue where it turns out that our sewer line is on the private property rather than in the street.
Not necessarily,
Well,
on the Rick.
According to Rick, okay.
So that's a question.
It is in question right now.
A question that it's,
Question that it's actually on private
Mass
property.
Highway Department changed the layout of the road up there.
Yeah.
At some point in time, it was, I believe, the same 80s project that Dan American had previously referenced.
right,
And.
Just in case you wanna see pretty colors.
As to when they changed that layout, as to whether or not, at the time, the pre-existing layout was in effect, as to whether or not the pipe was actually on town property. I can't believe the town would run a pipe across somebody's property without some kind of consent.
Right.
So the whole thing just doesn't make sense.
okay, because one of the things that I was concerned about, that if it was, our drawing said it was on the town, or on the road, and it's, off into some private property, that would call into question, are any of the drawings correct, and that we ought to go, not only just correct this situation, but also see if there were other problems.
So we did,
The first thing we need to do is confirm the actual layout, just to make sure. I mean, Mr. Shelby has a survey plan, but I think we should do some.
So this
the
force
only thing
main
to confirm.
was put into a de facto street?
according to our drawings, the force main was placed in, on the layout of Pine Street.
Okay,
And so when Mr. Shelby was having some excavation done on his property,
yeah, okay.
they came across the
Well,
force
is his
main.
property in the layout of the town road?
That's what we need to confirm.
That's what we're trying to confirm.
Okay, it may be that we do.
That's why-
He may be
So-
encroaching.
So if you take,
No, he's not approaching,
No.
it's just,
Us-
we need to determine as to whether or not this pipe was in one of the layouts, whether it be the old one.
or the new one.
Okay,
I don't know, what's the layout? What's the legal-
The legal bounds of the street.
So, I don't understand, if somebody put this force main in a legal layout, right?
This
If
was,
that were true,
so, this project is Ganawatt, is Ganawatt Station, okay? It's on Pine Street, and
Yeah.
it was placed in for the Ganawatt subdivision, I guess, Rick, and
Right.
basically it was a private pump station. The town took it over many years ago, probably 20 years ago.
Constructed by a private developer, yes.
So, what we know is that, and what we did was we had a contractor come out, and we started the sewer manhole up here on Route 1, okay?
Right.
And what we did was we had him use a technique called a sonde. And basically what you do is you place it on a apparatus, and what it does, it goes down, it jets itself into the pipe, and you can actually locate it using a locator. So it's a transmitter and a receiver. So basically, we had the contractor come up, and he was able to locate the force main from Ganawatt Station, okay? This is what dumps into the sewer manhole on Route 1 and Pine Street.
Right.
The way it goes is kind of funny, because what it does is it comes into this. I'm going to go backwards now, okay? Because we're pumping down towards Pine Street, across Route 1,
Right.
down Pine Street. I'm going down the other way, back towards Ganawatt Station, okay? What it does is it takes that kind of curl up in the top corner here, and that's the corner of Route 1 and Pine Street and Mr. Shelby's property. There's a stanchion right there that the actual traffic lights are on a cable. It actually goes, the pipe goes around the stanchion, and then it proceeds down alongside the road. It's not inside Pine Street, but it's on the side of the road, edge of road, rather, way up here. But when you get into the entrance where Mr. Shelby wants to have his entrance, that's where the pipe was found to be 10 feet off the edge of the road. So we followed it as far as we could down that way, and he became obstructed. But we know that it goes into this sewer manhole that's down on Pine Street as well. So we have a very, very good idea of where that 4-inch operational force main is. Now, during the excavation on Mr. Shelby's property, they came across another 4-inch force main, which they thought was live. So what we did was we came back and we dug down in this area down here, where the entrances to his property is here. There's a fire hydrant here, and where the other force main was. We found that this force main was inactive. It was fractured down on the opposite side of Pine Street, on the opposite side of the sewer manhole itself, and it was also fractured before you get to that stanchion up on Route 1. So this pipe is inactive. So before, we thought that we were dealing with 2 force mains, and we don't have any paperwork that says that there were 2 force mains placed in there. We don't know what that other force main was for. That's all conjecture at this point. But we do know that there is a 4-inch force main, and in approximately the area that he's going to have his apron to go in to his property, it's approximately 10 feet off of the public roadway on Pine Street.
Well, there's
This
other
one here is
development
10
on the
feet
side of
long.
that street,
The
isn't there?
green one is the active. All the green lines are active. So in other words, I gave you just to let you know, because we cambered, well, not cambered, but we sonded all these other lines. So from, I'm sorry, so from the preserve, we know exactly where the preserve dumps into the sewer manhole on the top of Route 1. We also know where the arena, Arroyo
Yeah.
Ice Arena, that comes down along Route 1. So that's the investigation that we've done so far. I know that Rick's dealing with Kyle, the planner, the engineer, and we're looking into trying to find if we do have a layout that can tell us that that pipe was in fact on Pine Street at one time.
All right, John?
No, there is development, and there was development on the other side of the street, Cranberry Lane, et cetera. So they, before Ganawati went in, so it would have been, have to have something to serve them before Ganawati put a line
Well,
in.
like I said, there's
So
both
there
ends of
should have
that,
been another line there.
both,
It was Cranberry and Ganawatt that built the pump station. Whoever developed Cranberry and Ganawatt built that pump station.
I thought Cranberry was there before. Oh, I'm sorry. Okay,
Which one was there?
Cranberry.
Right, so whichever one was first, John, that developer built that pump station.
So basically, what I wanted to show you is that the pink line is the actual, we found that that is inactive. And both of these are SDR 21, they're not even PVC pipes, so obviously it was laid back 20, 25, maybe possibly longer than that. And I just wanted to let you know that that's what our investigation has led us to. So we have actually one force main that's active out there. It's Ganawatt Station's force main that dumps into the manhole onto Route 1, and We're still looking to see, we know exactly where it is on Mr. Shelby's property, or if it's actual town property, and right now, that's what we're trying to track down.
Okay, so,
The reason you can't use the inactive force main is why?
It's fractured in two different spots,
Can
Patrick.
you repair those fractures?
We just can't, we can't go any further because the pipe's actually squished and there's debris inside. So there's just
okay.
no, it can't be used, it could be used at some point, I'm sure, for
in the
something
end,
else.
it just comes down to we determine where is it in the layout of the
Right.
road or not? And if
And
it
that's-
if it
right.
is, then
And it'll be on
it's not an
updated
issue.
maps.
They disrupted a line of ours.
Right.
And if it's not, then we have another.
The fact that there are two lines there raises a red flag.
Right.
Do we have any claim at adverse possession on this?
I don't understand what you
We've
mean
been
by that.
there and they've allowed us to be there, and it's been known that it was there and everything else.
Why don't we wait to find out if they're exactly.
Well, I don't want to
what the
wait, it doesn't make any difference if we find out or not. We may own it, even if
Yes,
it's on his land.
Right.
So we should know that too, I mean, before we start ripping it up.
That's exactly what I'm in the process of doing right now, Patrick.
So in this,
Rip anything up.
in this case, it's to be
No,
continued.
the pipe's gonna stay where the pipe's gonna stay. The pipe's
Okay.
not gonna be relocated.
I'd like to move on to
Yes.
correspondence number 2, a sewer abatement request, 180 Summer Street. This is an issue where they had our garden hose that's left running. In the past, we have abated the sewer for the amount of excessive water. Is there any reason, Mary, that this is anything special beyond
I
that?
actually have the abatement if you're interested.
Yeah, I'd entertain a motion to do the standard abatement. Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? All right, we'll take care of that. Correspondence 3 is just a note from the planning board about their zoning articles. Really no action needed on our part. Correspondence 4 is another sewer abatement request, and this again was a hose that was left running, and do we have the abatement request? I'll entertain a motion to do the standard abatement of the sewer water that did not go into the sewer.
I mean, I just wanted to point out that it does seem like they're doing some lawn watering. It seems like the water use is on a schedule. If you look at the history, you look forward. And then there's a 5-day period where they did have elevated water use, but also I'm sure they were watering their lawn at that same time. I don't have a problem with the abatement, I just wanted to point that out.
Okay?
Bill,
Yeah.
I have a little problem with this.
Yes?
He was asking for 343 back on the sewer
Right.
abatement. This is 430.73.
Is there a reason for the difference there, Mary, of the amount, what the applicant was, or the,
Ed Burns?
He's asking for this.
No, I know, I saw
I'll get on this.
usually we do the figuring, I'm not sure how,
Judy does it.
yeah. I would guess that our number is correct, even though he's asking for a different number. Our standard has been, if it can be demonstrated that the water did not go into the sewer, we just go and we know what their path. If you'd like to change that,
I'd like to hold that and find out.
okay.
He's asking for 343, and we're giving him 430. He's making money.
Well, it's a good catch, so let's, Mary, we're going to,
Okay.
I don't know, what do we wish to do to unvote this, Mary, or? No, I'm not worried about the paper.
It wasn't voted, you just made the motion.
Oh, okay. If we could,
I move to continue.
all right. Correspondence number 4. This one did not ask for an amount.
What's that? Yeah. We're gonna continue it.
Okay.
Okay.
Thanks, Bill.
Correspondence number 4, this is 14 Anderson Way. Again, it's the same thing, they had water that did not go into the sewer. Entertain a motion to grant this.
Yeah, what amount? 110?
Mary, what's the abatement amount?
It is, was it 110.79?
Yeah, 110.79.
$110.79.
So moved.
All right. Got a second?
Second.
All right. Motion been made and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Is this one going
Abstained?
on?
That one's gonna be
Okay.
signed, yeah.
This one we can sign.
That one you can sign.
And correspondence number 5 is just the town meeting warrant, again, for our information. And did John, Rick, oh, no, Mr. Johnson is here. Okay. Why don't we go back to our 7:30 appointment. This is on Optima, and Joanna, you're here. Okay. Only 6 minutes behind, okay. And here's the abatement on that one.
Thank you.
Your turn.
Okay. Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission. I'm Joanna Giorgio-Hilbert from Mackey and Mackey here on behalf of the applicant, which is Optima Hospitality Group. We also have David Johnson from Norwood Engineering, and on behalf of the applicant, we have Nancy Laluca. So we've been here before, so I'm going to give you a brief recap of our previous visits. The goal tonight is to discuss, obviously, the sewer and water agreements, but David Johnson is here if there are any technical questions that I obviously can't answer. So just as a reminder, back in August of 2018, we came before you. David Laluca was here, and he sort of gave you an overview of the proposed project and essentially requested the board's approval to move forward with negotiations with the town. And the board voted to authorize us to move forward on negotiations, subject to reaching an agreement that was desirable to the board. Since that time, we have entered into a mitigation agreement with the town of Walpole, as well as Walpole and Sharon entered into a intermunicipal agreement. And those 2 agreements were authorized by the Board of Selectmen and signed at a meeting in May, this past May of 2019. The nuts and bolts of those agreements are that 55% of the hotel is physically located in Walpole, and this results in about $92,000 of annual tax revenue to Walpole. 50% of the Sharon's portion of the room tax will be remitted to Walpole, and so that will be an additional $70,000 annually that would otherwise have gone to Sharon. So the total annual room tax coming to the town of Walpole will be $240,000. The applicant has agreed to make a $100,000 mitigation payment to the town of Walpole, and has also agreed to waive any rights to challenge sewer and water connection fees, and I&I fees and the like. And I do have copies of those agreements. I believe those have been shared with you, but if you have any specific questions on either of those agreements, but those have been signed by both towns and the applicant. Last time we were here was in May, and you posed several follow-up questions for us. So the first question, some of these were questions, some of these were tasks. The first was more of a task. You wanted to make sure that both agreements reflected that the portion of the hotel that's not located in Walpole would be charged out of town sewer fee, usage fees, and water usage fees. So we have added that specific language. I think that was the intent anyway, because that's in the regulations, but we have added that specific language to both agreements. That is in both agreements, section 4.1, which specifies out-of-town rate will apply to the 45% of the building that is located in Sharon. The second thing that you asked us to do is remove the reference to a pump station, which had inadvertently been left in there. There will be no pump station, so that has been removed. The third question had to do with, in the sewer agreement, there is reference in section 1.5 to Mass General Law, chapter 83, section 3. And the commissioners had a question, why was that in there? So I went back and did some research. That had been added by KP Law, the attorney for the town. That standard language that they added to the agreement. I do have a copy of that, that statute if you want to take a look at it. But basically what it says is, relevant here. So let me just read that section of the agreement that it's section 1.5 of the sewer agreement that references that.
This is the one that talks about no additional connections.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So it says there will be no additional connections allowed by either the company or Walpole without prior written consent of all the parties, except to the extent required by the provisions of Mass General Laws 83, Section 3. This is a provision which allows the town to add an additional connection for an abutter if it so warrants. So basically, the relevant language says, if the Board of Health of a town making such appropriation shall order land abutting upon a public or private way in which a common sewer has been laid to be connected with such sewer, or if the owner of such land shall make to the board or officer having charge of the maintenance and repair of sewers application to connect his land with a common sewer, such board or officer shall make such connection. I'm sorry, did you have a question, John?
Yeah.
The question was which town? Because the inference was, you were saying it was Walpole.
Yes.
But if it meant Sharon, that would give Sharon the opportunity to continuously expand that sewer without Walpole's
Yeah.
approval.
No, this
And-
is.
Well, I know what you're saying, well, and we need to hear that from our town council. That was the whole point of that question.
This agreement is only with the town of Walpole. Sharon is not a party to this agreement, so this doesn't give any rights to the town of Sharon.
So this is
No,
just
your agreement
agreement.
can't supersede state law. That's a
Correct.
state statute.
And this is
And
a
it
state
gives
statute.
rights to Sharon. You can't subtract them by any Walpole agreement to be right.
So this applies to the board or officers of a city or town having charge of the repair and maintenance of sewers. So this would give your town, who has charge of your sewers,
It
the
needs
right
to be
to add
better
additional
defined, because that was
connections.
the whole issue. It needs to be defined as to what that is, and that if, then state law does not apply to Sharon in that case, and that needs to be memorialized in some fashion. That was the question at that time.
So I can't speak on behalf of your town council, obviously, but all I can say is that this has been vetted by KP Law, and they've added or subtracted language as they deemed necessary to protect the town of Walpole. But I can't speak for them.
Speaking for myself, I'm satisfied with the explanation and the fact that it would require us and the applicant to say, okay, so, I understand what you're saying, John, but.
I mean, if you think about it though, if it was Walpole's right, we wouldn't have to, wouldn't have to be put in the agreement, because obviously it's our sewer line.
Right.
So it refers to the community that's the host of the location, that's Sharon. It's just, so.
The sewer line is located in Walpole. So Sharon, under statute and under the agreement, has no right to do anything with the sewer line.
Makes sense.
So no part of the sewer line touches Sharon at all.
Just flip this around.
If you could tilt it a little bit so the camera can see as well as
As well as me.
as well as Glenn.
Glenn, come on over here. Come on over here. Come on.
Do we have any,
And actually, if you have a copy of the agreement, it's Exhibit C. Has
I don't think I have the
plan of
exhibits.
Yeah,
Do I have the exhibits?
yes, you do.
I got little maps.
That's all we
Yeah.
would have.
Yeah, but they don't mean anything.
So I tried to color code everything, it's a little easier to see. This dark line right here is the town line between Sharon and Walpole. So you see, this is the hotel in this location. The yellow line is the existing sewer line. Comes in, and at this location is a manhole. When the sewer line goes over, it services Applebee's, and the sewer connection to the hotel will be right into that manhole. So you can see it's well within the town of.
Town boundary.
The blue line is
We can't see
water-
the yellow line from here. How far, just put your finger, how far down does the yellow line go?
Right here.
So it's basically at the beginning of the hotel.
Yeah, it enters the front of the
yeah.
hotel, and it's basically just beyond the back of Applebee's.
Okay.
The blue line is the existing water line. It comes down and it stepped off previously as part of the development of the Applebee's site. The connection into the hotel is right here. If you can see the pink, there's a 4-inch domestic and a 6-inch fire line. Again, here's the town line, here's the connection. There are 2 connections that are not part of the water that were requested by the fire department. This dashed water line comes over to service a hydrant, which is over the line. And this one here is again on hydrant line that's located right at the town line.
I think that we would want the hydrants retained above the community, the town line between Sharon
Yeah,
and.
yeah, that was my question, is why is the hydrants just over the line into Sharon? Is there a reason the fire department requested that, did you say? Did they have a
No,
reason?
It was based upon the layout of the parking. We have a landscaped island between the parking and Sharon and the parking in Walpole.
So
Because I
there's-
think, yeah, those are well within the radius of fire hoses, that there would be no need to bring the hydrants, bring the water into the town of Sharon. You've got one like 2 feet over the line, the other one 3 feet over the line.
There's-
So it's just because there was a island in the parking lot that they could put the hydrant is what it amounts to?
Yeah.
Bernie, you got any thing to comment, or Rick, on the placement?
All I can say is we've probably got 6 or 7 hydrants in all the town.
Okay.
And generally, the fire departments would like, they place the hydrants where they like to have them.
Yes, I
So-
know. Usually they decide.
Right, so
Okay.
I don't have a problem with that.
I don't either.
And the other thing I'll note is that we have not submitted for site plan approval yet. Once we do that, obviously.
We can have
we'll
comments.
The opportunity to comment on the site plan.
And we can suggest that the hydrant would be put onto Walpole.
Take that
Okay.
suggestion to the council.
Yeah, I think at
Okay.
least 3 of us would like to have it, the hydrant, just if it's just a foot up above the line.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Right.
Anything else?
So, that, I think, squares away your question regarding the statute. So the final question is, you wanted us to clarify what the applicant was going to be doing in terms of infrastructure improvements in
Right.
town of Walpole. So what we have done, the first thing we did was, we made an opinion to the town of Walpole so that Weston and Sampson could conduct a sewer report, a sewer study, which you have a copy of that. I think that's
It's in there.
exhibit B.
It's in here.
It's in there. So Weston and Sampson conducted a study, and they found 3 segments of the sewer line on Pleasant Street that were actually already deficient, but will be further deficient based on the addition of the hotel. And so what we have done is, the next thing we did is we contracted with Weston and Sampson to produce contract documents for for this sewer work. That was another $10,000 the applicant paid to have those contract documents produced. We can't actually bring them out to bid until we actually have a contract from the town, right? Because it's not our project yet. But we did bring it to PJ Hayes Excavating, who was able to give sort of a estimate, ballpark estimate based on reviewing the contract documents. He believes the entire cost of the project would be approximately $300,000. And I have a copy of his ballpark estimate.
I've seen that, Mr.
You've seen it?
Yes.
So basically, the existing capacity of those three segments is 447,935 gallons. With this sewer project, which would involve replacing the sewer lines, we looked into could they be relined, but everyone felt it was better that they actually be replaced. By replacing those lines, it would bring up the capacity in those three segments to 589,136 gallons. So that's a delta, an increase in capacity in those three lines of $141,201. The peak average flow from the hotel will be 42,535 gallons. So, and actually, you know what, I'm going to pass this little handout out, which we walk through this with me.
We can share one here.
I have
Oh,
one.
all right.
I can share with
think you, okay, you can put it back, okay. So essentially, the hotel would take up 30% of that additional capacity. We discussed this with the DPW department. Obviously, the applicant can get that work done at a better price than the town can. So the applicant would be willing to contract for and do the work itself. And then we would look for a credit against our I&I fee for 70% of what that is. At this point, we don't have hard numbers because, like I said, we can't have a contract bid until we have a contract. You know, what I suggested is we use PJ Hayes's bid, and then that could be adjusted up or down based on what the numbers actually come in at. So essentially, and that's on, let's see, it's in section 4.2 of the sewer agreement.
Yes.
And so essentially, what it would, so if we did the project, if it cost $300,000, 70% of that would be $245,000. So we would be looking for credit against our I&I of $245,000. We've already agreed to set the I&I fee. I think that's in the mitigation agreement.
Yes.
That amount is $400,000, approximately $400,000.
What? John?
Yeah, you've got all these segments here. Now, this is like we just been kind of popped on us. I'm trying to piece these together. But you have Union Street, Walcott Street, Pleasant Street, Old Post Road, High Plain Street, et cetera. So you're talking about Pleasant Street only?
500 feet.
So,
Because your figures you gave us are for Pleasant Street, but that's,
so it's three segments of Pleasant Street. So, if you look at the chart that Weston and Sampson provided at the back of their report, they highlight the three segments.
It's a little hard to see on ours, but there's, on the second page, 2/3 of the way down, there are three items labeled Pleasant Street.
Yes.
They're slightly grayed on our copy.
Is there a page number or something?
It's, this is, if you see the chart, it's in, labeled as tables.
Yeah. Yeah, I
There
get
it
it.
is, right there, Pat.
Yeah. And these were obstructions? Or were they leaks, or what were they?
That was what Weston and Sampson found deficient in the piping in that area.
What was the deficiency?
Undersized pipe.
Like,
Undersized pipe.
Undersized pipes. They weren't leaking or anything?
No.
Okay.
What is the definition of undersized rig? Is that a percentage of availability, or is that a gross?
Right, they take percentages of capacity, and they take design capacity, and then they will take a percentage of the design capacity and determine the flows, and they'll cover how close they get to design capacity. I believe this would put it very close to like a 90th percentile of design capacity, which essentially makes the pipe undersized. There are 3 segments of pipe that we've known for many years are undersized in that area.
So,
So whether the point being, whether this particular project connects to that line or not, the town has a known deficiency. Okay, so that's a deficiency that ultimately needs to be corrected.
So in the column that labeled design capacity, 80% is what it, is the
80%.
max, and the existing, which is numbers that are higher, is
So
what
it's a
it is
negative
right
right
now.
now.
Right. They
And
never
that's
run-
why.
You never want to run a full pipe.
Right, and that's why those 3 numbers, which are
They're
negative,
negative.
that is this, they're going to correct, of which they will get it back to a design capacity. 30% of it is addressing
The needs.
the hotel's need, and the
Right. There was an
remaining
option.
70% is benefiting purely the town.
There was an option to line the pipe as well, as Joanna had alluded to earlier. The decision to replace the pipe was made internally by the town. It's just a better option. Lining the pipe, by lining the pipe, you create a more laminar flow and essentially increase the capacity in that way. But it's not a good option for this particular application, in my opinion.
so
The pipeline segment should be replaced.
just to,
and Weston and
the
Sampson also
existing
concurred.
flow before the hotel is 548, 735. That's 100 more than the pipe can handle.
Correct.
Or that it should be.
And now, after this, all this improvement, you're only going to 589, which is barely above the existing flow before the hotel.
It'll put it to the 80% level, correct, Rick? We'll bring it up to the design. So we were over the design, they were going to further it, they're going to, the change they're making will
Mitigated.
mitigate it, bringing it back to 80%, which is the design capacity.
Well, no, I mean, excuse me. If I can add 2 and 2. If I add the existing flow to what the hotel's gonna do, it's gonna be over the post-improvement capacity. So it's not solving the problem.
No, that's not correct.
That's not what the engineer said.
Well, I'm just looking at the numbers. If
I don't think you're interpreting them properly.
okay, we have a post-improvement design capacity, 589, 136. We have a current use of 548, 735 before the hotel.
Right. And that's
And the
the
hotel-
existing, which doesn't mean this number is over the 80%. It's over the 80%. It's not that it, is surcharging out onto the street or whatever at this
Right.
point.
Well, but if you're gonna correct something, why not correct it so it's not 80% over, it's over capacity? Why don't you correct it so it handles the future flow?
Rick?
I mean,
It
It's,
is being corrected in design to handle the future flows.
right. It is by Weston and Sampson when they designed it.
yeah, but it's by this much. I mean, everywhere else, you've got existing capacity, you've got flow of 375, and you have available of 1,718,000. I mean, you have capacity for everything, for growth, for anything that's gonna happen.
Weston and Sampson identified these 3 areas as deficient pipes to begin with, so what they're saying is, if this work is done, it will take, if this work was to be done, it will take care of what the town needs for their, for the supply of the pipe, and also the project.
Well, if you're gonna be used to running over capacity, but.
It's the exact same thing we did on Coney Street for the Siemens project. Not that we did, but Siemens is still.
Right.
Yeah, 548 plus 42 is 590, and the post-improvement capacity is 589. So the post-improvement capacity does not meet the two numbers that you've given us. I understand your thing about, we're gonna 80%, we're gonna go over, but I mean, I don't know, I don't understand why you wouldn't just size it so there is some availability in the Pleasant Street area for other sewage to be added.
There is.
141,000 gallons, I believe. There was a delta there shown by Weston and Sampson if this is followed through with the construction.
There's a delta. What do you mean by a delta?
Available flow.
That's the increase between existing and proposed.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
And but the amount you're adding for the hotel has to be subtracted from that.
Weston and Sampson was engaged by the town to review the current design and to review the proposed project and come back and say what was required, and this is what they came back with.
Right.
I'm not an engineer, so I can't argue with what Weston and Sampson says, but they were paid a lot of money to produce a
I know,
report.
well, I can add too.
They've done another project that
This, you know, but this is almost like a red herring anyway, because actually, I know it's opposed this, but it's gotta be done right.
It is being done
And-
right.
and-
It's absolutely being done right. If you don't trust our engineers, then maybe we should look for new engineers. We're not here to debate an engineering stuff. This has all been vetted by Weston and Sampson. The wastewater engineers that we've had in town for 30 years, they've never steered us wrong. Why would they put a document in front of us that's not accurate?
Well, our job is to sit here and to scrutinize this information as layman members of this commission. And I'm not gonna be intimidated by anybody, including Wesson and Sampson.
Nobody's out to intimidate you.
Yeah, they are. Well, I'm gonna ask the questions, Rick. That this is a long line, and really, Bernie,
I think I can echo Rick's sentiment, John, that, you know, we had, you know, this Weston and Sampson has looked at these areas. They found these three portions of pipe that need to be taken care of. There were two options. One option was to
no
line it,
disagrees
one
on that.
option
The
was...
point is, why not fix them to the degree that instead of being under, you're gonna be, there's additional capacity for somebody else other than the hotel. That's just a question. But beyond that, beyond that, we haven't looked at all the rest of the segments here that go all the way down to Union Street. And
That was already looked at by Weston and Sampson. These are the three portions of the pipe that were found deficient.
Weston Sampson isn't here. I'm reading the numbers you gave us, Bernie, and they gave us. I don't care who Weston and Sampson is, quite frankly. I don't give a damn.
Well, they work for you.
The pipes at both ends of this bad street.
I'm not sure.
This here shows a diminution of sewer capacity all the way through East Walpole,
Rick, do you know?
right down to the Norwood line.
The size of the pipes where this enters this bad section and where it leaves?
It looks like it's 8-inch, and then there it goes to 10, and what the three sections that are going to be replaced are going to be
Brought up to-
a 10.
10.
So you would
Right.
have 8 to 10 like we do now, it's just that the 10 will be a
In that-
little bit closer to,
My only point is you need to start trusting the consultants that you hire. If you don't have trust in what they report to you, then perhaps you should look for another consultant or become a professional engineer yourself.
Well, why are we given the figures then? We're not supposed to look at them?
I don't know, it's legitimate to ask, and we're getting the explanation.
So if I can make a recommendation,
Yes.
I think what is clear is that this covers the additional gallonage added by the hotel. And what the commission seems to be discussing is whether or not the town should go further than that to cover some sort of future additional flowage. I think that doesn't necessarily change the discussion, though, that we're having right now, which is Optima has agreed to pay for the sewer project, cover its 30% or whatever that percentage is based on 42,000 gallons, and would ask for a credit against the remainder. If the town decides it wants to do more, I could certainly discuss with Mr. Kaluka. I mean, it's sort of, I think, the same for him. He's paying for it, but he's getting a credit for whatever flowage is not his responsibility against his IMAC fee.
Yeah, that makes sense to me. Your question could still be asked to the consultants. You have a follow-up question. It doesn't necessarily impede our discussion here tonight.
I agree.
No, it doesn't impede it. I would just say that, on the record, get that concern that if I were doing this, this is nothing about Mr. Waluka or anybody else's intent. The very logic of the numbers in front of us are, with this improvement, you're gonna go to 589,000 and change capacity, and with the hotel being added to that, it's gonna demand 590. So
you're concerned with long-term capacity? Does that sound right?
Somebody else comes and wants to hook up the sewer.
So can we ask the
ultimately,
consultants a follow-up question
there's not gonna be enough room.
about long-term capacity?
So, why not make the pipe a little bigger so there's 10% future opportunity
No, I
for the
think-
growth of East Walpole? I mean, why make it, so
I
it's
think the
right in
question should
line?
be asked, and
That's
you
all.
asked it, and I,
Yeah.
try to get an answer.
I don't want to belabor, but that's,
The only thing that I would say, John, and if you don't want to belabor it, I'm willing to stop right now. But it's going into, you have an 8-inch pipe going into a 10-inch, and we're just taking the last part of the 8-inch, or what's being proposed is to make that 10-inch.
Right.
So if you made it bigger, you would have an 8-inch, say, going to a 12, going to a 10. That wouldn't make any sense to do. Anyways, he doesn't want me to belabor the point, so I won't.
no.
Okay. So that is essentially where we stand today. The agreement that you have, as I mentioned, has been vetted by town council. It's been vetted by Rick Mattson, by Jim Johnson. You know, we've worked very hard over the last several months to come to an agreement that, you know, works for everyone involved. And we think that this agreement does it, and we would appreciate the commission's endorsement of both of the agreements, the sewer agreement and the water agreement.
Okay. I see we have some people here, I don't know.
I got some questions
Oh, you
on this
do?
agreement.
Okay, well,
Yeah, I
Patrick.
do. We're talking about the agreement, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, okay. I got some questions, first of all.
Sure.
Because, you know, I got all this paper, and it was hard to get through it all.
It's hard to write it all.
How many trees died? No, never mind. They're a renewable resource. In this agreement, is there any prohibition on a limit to the amount of water that this hotel can draw?
So, yes, there is.
Can you show me where?
It's in there, I saw it.
Yeah.
Section
Yeah, it
1.2, water connection.
Right here, page 2.
Page 2, let's get page 2.
Shall not exceed
4,657,400 gallons.
Yes.
All right. Page 2.
1.2,
1.2, wastewater.
no, you're looking at this.
1.2. Oh, you want this
Yeah, this is a water.
different agreement.
Yeah.
Okay.
Section 1.2.
Okay, so it can exceed the amount here,
With the
under
approval-
certain circumstances.
No, only if we come back to the board.
It would have,
They'd
it
have to
says,
come back to you.
that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
It can, if it comes back to us saying you get permission from the Stormwater Commission to increase that.
Well, you have to, it would be a whole new.
Oh,
New agreement.
All right,
Okay,
yep.
next question.
That's good?
Yep.
Yeah. In this document, it seems that this agreement runs with the land and not with the building? Why?
So we discussed that.
When did you discuss that?
The last time we were here, this came up as well. And, you know, it's a large investment to obviously put in, all of the infrastructure involved in this property. It is tied to this specific plan, okay? So in the preamble, it discusses, the plan, and it's tied to this hotel. That being said, if the owner, as with any permit, a special permit, site plan from the planning board, if the owner sells the hotel to a new owner, it's a land use, it needs to travel with the land.
So, if this runs with the land, how long does it run with the land?
Indefinitely. Now, if there were a different use, if they tore down the hotel and wanted to build multifamily housing, they'd have to come back, because the agreement isn't covered by that. The agreement covers a hotel.
Well, here's the problem with that. If it runs with the land, and it's in Sharon we're talking about, now this piece of Sharon has a sewer forever, right?
Yes.
Okay.
I mean, this,
All right,
not
all right,
Sharon
right.
doesn't have your sewer,
Okay.
this building
Now,
does.
That parcel does.
I mean, the investment.
the building is not gonna last forever.
But it is tied to this building. If they tore down this building and built even if they built a new hotel, they'd have to come back. The
Where's-
agreement is tied to this building.
It runs with the land, so the land, because that's one of the things that says in here. To me, that means that once we put that sewer line into Sharon, it's gonna run with that parcel.
It runs with the building that's on the land. The agreement specifically, in the preamble of the agreement, discusses the project. This agreement
Yeah, I
is
know it
tied to
discusses the
this-
project,
Well,
but
The
he-
sewer
here's
line,
the
if I
thing.
recall, the sewer line doesn't actually go into Sharon.
That's correct.
Right, it stops at the top, I guess on the diagram there,
Well, if that's true, then
Yeah.
why do we need an intermunicipal agreement?
If I might.
yes,
You have to allow them to use it, Patrick.
This yellow line
Yeah, yeah.
is the existing sewer line that comes down and feeds the Applebee's.
Uh-huh.
This little stub here enters the hotel, and that's the connection.
Why are you telling me this?
well, you have a
I'm just
question.
No, no, I have a test, you're saying that we're not connecting Sharon with the sewer?
No, I'm saying the connection is.
portion of the
Yeah, I know where the connection, I can see that, but here's what I'm saying.
This portion of the building is
If you people are claiming you're not putting a sewer into Sharon, then why are we having
The toilets are
all
gonna,
these agreements?
the toilets are gonna be in
The
the,
build, the part of the
Sharon.
building that's in
But you hear
Sharon.
what they said,
toilets are
the
gonna
sewer
be in
wasn't
Sharon.
going into Sharon.
The sewer
put
line
the,
itself.
put the map back.
It's not going into Sharon.
Yeah,
It is,
sewer's
the
not
toilets are
going
gonna be in
the-
Sharon.
Sewer pipes, the toilets will be in Sharon.
Sewage from the building is coming from Sharon, but the sewer line,
Okay, so the sewage
physical
going-
line is
This is
actually-
what the MWRA.
The physical,
is-
what he's
So
trying to...
any building there, or any appurtenance to that building, has a right to have sewer.
No, we can't, in other words, I know your concern is that we could add
Just
another
that
building
building.
on the Sharon part of the site.
Yeah,
We can't, because that's not identified in the agreement.
can you add to the building?
I don't think we could add to the building.
No, all the agreements are.
All the agreements are tied to the 116.
Could Sharon rezone this and put some other kind of,
They could, but they couldn't
structure?
get sewer from Walpole unless they came back to you and asked for
They
it.
have to come back and ask for another municipal agreement, and that's a ruling from town council.
I really don't see how we're protected on that. Okay,
The town of Sharon cannot access your sewer line. This, you're agreeing to, if you agree to it, allow this building, the portion of which is in Sharon, to use the sewer line. If
Right.
we change the building,
That's it.
if we put a new building there, if we add another building, we have to come back to the town.
That's it, Patrick.
Okay,
So-
what, next one?
not that I think that's a fuzzy area there, to say the truth. Now,
It's really not, and town council, again, has reviewed
Our
this.
council supported this.
Let's talk about the room tax that what portion of Sharon's room tax are we getting?
50%.
Why only 50%?
Well, The entire portion of the building that's located in Sharon, 50% of that is coming to Walpole.
Yeah, but why only 50%? Why not 100%?
That's what Jim
Now, let me
negotiated.
explain something to you. By putting sewer into Sharon, we're building value on that property, which means that Sharon's gonna get higher taxes on that. Otherwise, as the developer said, he'd put a storage unit there. Okay, his words. So the value of this land has increased, but only for Sharon, not for Walpole.
No, it absolutely is
Okay,
increasing.
so I thought it was fair that we would get 100% of the room tax. And here's another piece that I just thought about, is that we have hotels in Walpole, right near here. If this hotel is taking people away from that hotel, we're losing the room tax on our Walpole hotel. Because now they're going into Sharon, and Sharon's getting 50% of the room tax. So there's two things here. One is, I don't think it's fair that we don't get any kind of a revenue flow from this.
Well, $250,000.
Except 50%.
$250,000 a year in room tax revenue is a lot of revenue flow. You're more focused on what we're not getting, but what we are getting is $240,000 in tax.
We're only talking about the Sharon portion now. We get zero from the Sharon
And
portion.
$240,000 from the, what we
You
get?
get 70,000 from the Sharon portion.
Yeah, yeah.
What's the-
And I think we should get 100%,
So a couple of things. First of all, this.
for the reasons I just stated.
Okay, and I'll address those. So this is a Walpole hotel. The entrance is in Walpole.
Yeah.
Most of the building is in Walpole. The Applebee's, which will be, we haven't even factored that in, that the usage of the Applebee's will be increased because of the hotel. That's in Walpole. The studies have been done. There's plenty of capacity to fill all of the hotels. You wouldn't be building this if there wasn't. And so I don't think that's a concern. In terms of the agreement, that's the agreement that was negotiated between the towns. The applicant has agreed, in addition, to give a $100,000 mitigation fee.
Saw that.
Has agreed to do the sewer infrastructure project, which will save the town. Not only will it cover the capacity of.
Yeah, but you want to get reimbursed for that.
Right, but if we do it, it's gonna cost less than it would if the town would do it. So
Maybe.
that is saving,
No,
I
it's
think
true.
definitely.
Oh, it's true.
Maybe, who knows?
It's true.
It may be, it
The way
won't be
we
the
have
same
to,
quality
the
either.
way we have to bid it and everything,
Well,
Patrick.
the town has to approve, I mean, obviously, the quality of work would have to be approved by the town.
Okay, and you think that you're going to get reimbursed through the I&I fund, but these aren't leaks. I&I is, you know what it stands for.
I understand that, and
These are not leaks,
I
these are
understand.
constrictions or something.
We thought-
How do you get that into the I&I fund?
So we thought that would be a fair way if the sewer.
Yeah, I know, but legally, how do you do that? We've had problems with that, as our director can attest, where it may not be legal for us to do things that are not actually I&I.
But you can reduce your I&I fee, and that's essentially.
Well, you know what our ratio
You
is,
can
right?
reduce it.
You would be reducing your I&I fee based on whatever the 70% cost
Right,
is.
Which is a good idea.
And
I think it's
also,
a great idea.
all right.
and also they said that
Okay,
they
and-
wouldn't,
It's a
they
creative
wouldn't,
idea.
Do you have another?
Says-
I
Pat?
do.
Can't spend the money
Okay.
anyway.
it says in the
Right.
agreement, Patrick, that they can't come after you for any
Okay.
I&I problems.
I support that.
If you look at your plans, you have one sewer line serving two buildings. Isn't that correct?
That's correct.
Right? Okay. I think there's someplace in our policies that's not allowed, because we've been burnt before twice, where in the past we've allowed two buildings on a property, and then they were divided and sold.
So the buildings are connected, first of all. So I would disagree that it's two buildings. They are connected.
They are connected.
Yeah.
So they cannot be sold, those can't be divided by lots. They can't, in other words, Applebee restaurant can't be split off from the hotel.
I mean, you can do that even within.
No,
the
this is
building.
what happens. This,
But you can do that
the
even within one building.
the case I'm referencing is that this was like 60 years ago, when Bird and Son had two buildings on their property, one sewer. Eventually, they split the property, still one sewer. Sewer backs up. Who pays for it? We did, the town did. We paid for that. So, I have a problem with that. I can't.
So what
You cannot have two
What I
buildings
would
on
suggest to you
it.
is that we are not here tonight to discuss the technical piece of it. You will absolutely have an opportunity to weigh in during the site planning phase. And if that's something that you disagree with, that could be a comment.
Well,
made
it's
to the planning board.
tangentially part of this agreement, because it's important to me.
But it doesn't lock in the site plan.
All right. Do you have another item, Patrick?
Let me just check.
I've got one.
Yeah.
John, just, and I don't know, maybe Mr.
I'll yield the floor.
Mr. Johnson could answer that. I'm sure this is, by the way, I do have full confidence that this was negotiated properly, and the town administrator and the town attorney did the right job in protecting the town. I'm not questioning that. I'm just curious, in the payments, it all talks about paying within 60 days of all the approvals. And you can explain this to me. In the term, it says the agreement is in full force and effect until the company is no longer an occupant of the property. And unless a subsequent owner decides to assume the obligations of the company hereunder. So in other words, if I'm understanding this, force majeure, I've got another problem with that. Does that mean that if they decide to flip this or not go forward, the town doesn't get paid? They get their approvals, but they're no longer the occupant.
The town would always get paid for whatever usage has been done. If the agreement gets terminated, meaning this no longer gets sewer and water from the town of Walpole, then that would terminate the arrangement. But the town, under contract law, whatever you have actually provided, you get paid for.
Wouldn't there be a way to have the permits issued and hold them in abeyance or escrow until payment is made, as opposed to issuing all the approvals and then allowing a 2-month period for something else to happen, the ownership to change or the people withdraw and the town not get paid?
Well, my understanding is that the occupancy permit is not issued, is this right, until the
60 days
occupancy?
after the issuance of a certificate of occupancy for the property, so it's 60 days. So the building commissioner issues a certificate of occupancy, they have to pay within 60 days.
I know, but this says if they withdraw within that 60 days, they're not obligated.
What section, where are you reading?
Terms, Article 2, terms of the Section 2.
Which document?
Both of them are the same.
And so which part of section 2 are you looking at?
It says, it starts right off.
Okay.
The agreement's full force and effect until the company is no longer an occupant of the property.
I guess I'm not understanding what your problem is with that.
Neither am I, I'm sorry.
Sounds like an escape clause.
Many times, like we put solar things into town, and they flip them 4 times before a week is done. There's 4 different owners. It's very common in deals like this, hotel deals. The person who permits it doesn't build it or doesn't own it or whatever. So in this term here, this gets very confusing. If all the approvals are given and then payment isn't made for 60 days, 2 months, that creates like a problem and a gap if something changes.
Well, again, you can always turn off your, I think there's a clause in here which says,
Then they
Yeah, I
get
don't
no
wanna
sewer, they
turn
get no
off your
water.
service if
Yeah.
you haven't been paid.
So 60 days, 59 days goes by, and they sell the
Well,
property.
why would it be 60 days? Have you ever gotten a mortgage where you get the house, but you don't pay,
So you're talking about the $100,000 payment?
yeah.
Okay, so that is a separate agreement negotiated with Select. That's not covered by the sewer and water commission.
All right, well, it's in the water connection agreement and the sewer connection agreement.
And if
Which
you
is
look
different,
at
yeah.
section 4 that deals with payments, you'll see that there's a section called lien to secure payment,
4.2?
4.3. And then
4.3, yeah.
4.4, security for performance, company shall post a bond in amount equal to the estimated annual cost of said sewer service. And then I believe there is, in the alternative, company may deposit cash equivalent of the estimated annual cost
I think we'll get paid, and like I said, if we need to turn off the spigot, we can turn the water off. It's,
Okay. You're good with that, Mr. Johnson?
The worst case, you put a lien on the property.
Yeah.
So I'm not as.
Well, I just wonder if you're comfortable with that. And typically, force majeure isn't part of the agreements like this. That prevent, as you know.
Very unique.
Okay. Any,
Yeah, I got,
you got another one?
Yeah.
Okay.
When this was brought up before, I noticed that it was like dogleg construction. Do you remember this now? With the attorney then?
I'm sorry, when it was brought up when?
The last time I saw the plan for this hotel, before now, it looked like a dogleg. And I
There
questioned.
was an earlier, I don't believe that ever came before you. I've been here 3 times, and this was the plan we had. There was an earlier, I mean, honestly, this has been floating around for a long time. There have been several.
Do you remember that?
I think
prior-
originally, Patrick, remember originally, the whole thing was gonna be in Sharon. And we said, there's no reason to talk, don't,
Right.
And
and
that
so
was a
then,
prior owner, that's
So-
right.
not.
Okay, so this
Not
brings
true.
up the other point, probably my last point, maybe. Okay.
Yes.
Let's say that you extend the hotel, the Sharon portion, okay, because that's where the land is. Now, all this, in this agreement,
Again, we would have to come back to you. Under this agreement, we cannot extend the Sharon portion.
but as it stands now, would we still get what we're getting on the original parts that's in Sharon?
If we wanted to expand, we'd have to come back to you, and it would be a whole new negotiation.
Global agreement.
Okay. Glenn, do you have anything?
Section 1.2, which talks about water supply, and it says, we say that Walpole represents that the Walpole water system has sufficient capacity to provide an adequate water supply to the property. I do believe that's true, but if I could just ask you, Bernie, to talk a little bit about that. There is concern in town that we're supplying water, of course, it is partially in Walpole and partially in another town.
Yep.
We want to protect our Walpole homeowners, first and foremost. Can you talk a little bit about capacity in Walpole?
Well, we do, right now, we're doing very well with capacity.
Yeah.
We have plenty of water in storage or in the bank, so to speak. We're not near close to being at our capacity.
Okay, not near or close to being at capacity?
No.
Okay, good.
I mean, my predecessor can speak to that if, you know.
Yeah, no, I take your word for it. It just, it's worth asking.
Okay. Yeah,
because
no,
it
I
is-
mean, and we're actually removing people from Sharon off of Walpole water and placing them on.
It's gonna be a net gain, Glenn.
Yeah.
Because we propose to lose the big buildings.
Right.
The Econo Lodge
Mhm.
and Great Wall along that way.
Net gain.
That agreement is pretty much in place. Just what we'll gain from the buildings, I don't really to offset this.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. And there's and we could talk about what Sharon's getting and what we're not getting, but I think a no vote will result in us getting 0. So if we're talking about $240,000 a year in room tax revenue, and Joanne, what's the property tax? What's our share of property? Do you happen to know
Yeah,
that?
so the property tax is, between property tax and personal property tax, it's about 92,000.
Another 92,000
Yeah.
that, again, you put a storage unit in there. In the town of Sharon, we get none of that, and so there's 92,000 that goes away. And we do have the Pleasant Street system improvements that just wouldn't happen. So this project doesn't go forward, and we have under capacity pipes over by Bird Park, and those are gonna continue to be under capacity. So again, doing nothing, I think, is a lot worse than moving forward with this agreement. That's where I stand.
Mr. Spillane, any question that you have?
Couple statements.
Okay.
I don't like the idea of giving Walpole water to another town, number one.
Okay.
Number two, I think in this project, we're not getting enough out of it. $100,000 that the town would come up with, the last time we did a big project, Rick and I got $1 million from Herb Chambers.
And that was completely located outside. The thing to keep in mind about this is 55% of it is in Walpole.
Right.
So of the 116 rooms, we're really only talking about 52 rooms. I believe you're talking about her chambers, which
Right.
the entire facility was outside of Walpole. And
And
that was adding a lot more.
If I could just add, when it was originally proposed, it was
That was just
all
for
in
water.
Sharon and we said, there's no reason to talk. And then the reason that developer could not put the entire hotel in Walpole was that on, I guess it would be on the southerly side of the property there, it's wetlands. So he put in as much of the hotel as he could to get it.
We're constrained by, obviously, the Applebee's is an existing building, and then we have the wetlands as well.
Right.
So he put as much as he could in Walpole under the constraints of the site.
Okay, John, you've asked questions, I don't know if you have anything else? And I hesitate.
Yeah, I
hesitate to ask.
I like the fact that you are using an eye adjustment to improve the sewer line. I think that's a good strategy.
I agree.
I do wish you would do a little bit, could do a little bit more as far as the capacity in that Pleasant Street area, but I understand what the limitations are. I would ask one thing. I think the town council and the administration have done a good job negotiating all these different documents. Very impressive, actually. The one thing I want, and I think that Bernie doesn't object to it, is to keep those fire hydrants, in one case, 1 foot back over the line, in the other case, whatever it is, 6 feet. Keep those 2 fire hydrants in Walpole and still adjacent to the building to service the needs. I don't think that affects anybody. I think that's just
I think, John,
prudent.
as she said, you know, it's got to go in front of planning, it still has to be approved, so I'm sure that can be hashed out. I don't foresee that as a huge problem.
I mean, the applicant, we obviously have no issues with that. I think what it will come down to is the fire department. So the
Right.
fire department is fine with it. I think no reason with the
Absolutely.
I can't imagine that why the fire department won't, and it does appear based on the diagram that it was a convenient location that was going to be a grass plot anyways, as opposed to putting it on a
That's correct.
parking spot, so.
They just wanted the hydrant, a second hydrant on the southerly side of the.
Right.
Right.
That's what their comment was.
Okay.
Makes sense.
So you think they can be moved a couple of feet?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
I hesitate to do this because I assume we've got a lot of complaints, but I will ask if there's any question that the audience has. Mr. Maraski?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I want to begin by reading something from the town report, the most recent town report. One of the issues that the town is facing is the prospect that the DEP renewal of our water withdrawal permit will reduce average daily amount of water the town can pump from our wells. With growth of the town, our current average daily water use is growing close to the proposed new withdrawal limit. To address this issue, the board has investigated supplementing our local water supply with water from the MWRA. Connecting to the MWRA water system requires a number of state and local approvals. To start the process, the board placed an article on the spring annual town meeting warrant, requesting approval for a connection to the MWRA water system. The article failed to gain a favorable vote. The board will have to work to address the town meeting's concerns and/or find another solution to address the growing water demands. So what I just read is what the Board of Sewer and Water Commissioners wrote. This is your statement about the current situation of the town. So the question I think you should be asking is, does this intermunicipal agreement and providing water to a hotel that is also in the neighboring town, how does this help you to find a solution to address the legitimate growing water demands for the people and businesses located in Walpole, and I respectfully say it doesn't. The proposal before you tonight is completely and directly opposed to what the Board of Sewer and Water Commissioners said in writing in the town report to all the citizens of Walpole, that this is what you should be doing. So I believe capacity is an issue. You may trade off one against the other, but you still have the same capacity problem. You have, I believe, in my opinion, one of the most important responsibilities in town. People need water. Water is for public consumption and public safety. You can go without food for weeks, but to survive, people need water in days. And from what was reported in the Sharon Advocate in local newspaper back in February, it appears that we, the town of Walpole, will be doing all the work. We're providing not only sewer and water, but we are also issuing the building permit, with Sharon providing, quote-unquote, advice and consent for a 10% fee, whatever that means. We are also providing police and fire and ambulance in case of emergencies. So what was reported in the Sharon Advocate is Sharon is going to get $140,000 to $150,000 a year from this project. For what? I am not sure. Hotels use between 100 and 200 gallons of fresh water per occupied guest room per day, and that averages out to about 36,500 to 73,000 gallons of water per year. 160 rooms mean 5.8 million to 11.7 million gallons for the entire hotel if fully occupied for 365 days. That's the worst situation. We, Walpole citizens, can't water our lawns from April to October. But we can give that amount of water, millions of gallons of water, to a hotel partially outside the town for solely their economic development, not for an emergency. Moreover, don't we have an obligation to help the two recently permitted and built and operating hotels in Walpole to be a successful business? What message are we sending businesses in Walpole that use a lot of water? We are basically helping an outside hotel compete with our hotels that are 100% in Walpole. The two Walpole hotels pay 100% of their taxes, 100% of their fees for Walpole. They have already poured, no pun intended, not negotiated millions of dollars into Walpole. We have an obligation to make them profitable so they can continue to exist in Walpole and thrive. It supposedly takes 7 years for a hotel to stabilize its business once it opens up its doors. It's tough enough for them to compete with 20 hotels from Route 128 to Route 495 on Route 1. 20 hotels. Home 2 Suites by Hilton, 116 rooms. Fairfield Inn and Suites by Marriott, 108 rooms. Their combined assessments total almost $14 million. Their combined real estate taxes total about $300,000. Not to mention the I&I they already paid and their water and sewer hookup fees and charges, none of which they also did not complain about. Then you start adding in the numbers for the construction and site plan costs, and it comes to millions of dollars. We apparently have an identity problem here in Walpole, and our identity problem is we believe we are a regional water and sewer entity, authority. 7 houses in Dover get Walpole water. 7 houses in Norfolk get Walpole water. 1 house in Norwood gets Walpole water. 2 houses in Medfield get Walpole water. And the best one, 4 residential locations and 3 commercial locations in Sharon at Walpole Water. So we've already distributed to 24 locations outside of Walpole. We have already distributed water to them. And if you will recall, I was here during the rate setting hearing, and I mentioned that the 3 Sharon commercial properties, the accounts, were being charged $91.55 per 1,000 cubic feet of water if they used more than 2,500 cubic feet. And when you were at the same time, you were charging Walpole residents $104.04 per cubic feet of water if they used more than 2,500 cubic feet of water. So there was a great disparity in the amount of money that we were charging outside entities versus inside. And I know Mr. Knapp made a motion to correct that. I hope that is being corrected for this fiscal year. One of those 3 commercial accounts in Sharon is what I would say not very timely when it comes to making their payments. So I'm still puzzled about how all this water is being distributed outside of Walpole, and I want to point out to the sewer and water commissioners that we don't have a block rate for sewer rates. So here we go, we're going to start providing Sharon Hotel, Sharon with sewer. We only have 1 rate to the detriment of Walpole ratepayers. And now in Foxborough, the McDonald's has asked you for sewer, and we don't have a dual rate. There may be many future potential requests for our water and sewer on the horizon. This request that's before you is the camel's nose under the tent. Just at the last town meeting, the Route 1A Fields project, there was speculation that we were going to bring water and sewer to the fields, and Norfolk could have asked us for a hookup so they could develop the Pondville Hospital site. And a special codicil, I guess, had to be written or prepared to nullify that concept. There was also a request not too long ago, the prison in Norfolk asked the town for Walpole water. However, when they found out what they would have had to pay in I&I, they weren't really interested. The biggest request that I see on the horizon for Walpole water and possibly sewer would be coming from Foxborough. Linden Way is a private street, 1 house off of South Street, close to the proposed 300-unit 40B in South Walpole. The house and land is assessed for $500,000. It's a small house, 7 rooms, 3 bedrooms, 2,088 square feet. But you gotta ask yourself, why would the Kraft Group pay almost $1.2 million for a house with less than half that amount in April 2012, and the owners are still living in that house, to the best of my knowledge? That just smells to me that there's an attempt for Walpole water and sewer. Almost 2 years ago, Foxborough Town Meeting approved a very large zoning change for Route 1. On the Foxborough website, you can go there, you can find a PowerPoint presentation. And the presentation indicates Route 1 is the, quote, economic engine for Foxborough. And they'll show you 8 buildings, 1 13 stories high, and what appears to be another 2 buildings that are 7 stories high for R&D, retail, hotels. It's a very impressive plan, and it's all going to be supported by the so-called Kraft train. Development has and will continue to escalate, not only in Walpole, but in neighboring towns. It is time for our neighbors to stop looking at us for an easy infrastructure fix to their economic engine. If you look at our capital budget plan for the next 5 years, the sewer and water department will be asking Walpole residents and businesses to fund 26 projects totaling approximately $25 million. And I think we must be very careful not to submit to outside enticements and requests or even internal pressures that will overextend our resources to the possible detriment of Walpole ratepayers. In essence, we are chasing every shiny little nickel that is put in our face. It's one thing to help our neighbors if they have a water crisis. Everyone needs water. I can support that. You can't live without it. But it's another thing for the town of Walpole to become the de facto economic development committee for the town of Sharon. Thank you.
All right. Cliff?
I can read fast if you want to read.
All right. Can you be briefer than Joe?
No, of course.
Okay.
Please don't consider this pandering, but what I want to say is, I want you all to reflect on what Joe said, on what you're starting to hear and see in the town of Walpole. And I want you to come to a very complete understanding that you are the most important board going forward in the town of Walpole. And I do not say that lightly. What I can suggest to you, and your director, myself, and a few of you on the board, spent a great deal of time going to the SWIMI hearings for rate setting, for withdrawal permits, and things of that nature. And we clearly saw that we seem to have had a target on our back to make our withdrawal permit lower than what it can be. We sit on a sole source aquifer. One might think that that aquifer, in some sense, parochially or not, belongs to us. So the withdrawal permit is indefensible, in my opinion, by the DEP or whomever is going to be the final adjudicator of that. The other thing is, excuse me, the greatest potential harm that exists in the town of Walpole right now, Mr. Muraski alluded to, and that is the Foxborough Economic Development Zone. And when one realizes that they have knocked on the town of Walpole's door on different occasions and knocked and said, let me in, and I want in for sewer and water. The other reality is that we saw the country store and the McDonald's come to us. And all I say to you, the most important board going forward in the town of Walpole, is just look across the street and remember what they're planning on putting across the street. The other is, not one drop so far has gone into any of the apartments downtown, of some 300 estimated apartments. You can calculate all you want, and yet this board had to sit with people from Swan Pond and other areas about excessive water consumption. On my little street, Hummingbird Lane, we're always getting strange bills and odd capacities, and I think there's frankly something wrong, but that's a conversation of a private nature. What we hear is the gentleman, your board, fighting for the withdrawal permit, to have it changed in your favor for more capacity. Even the same capacity would be a win in this particular case. What ends up happening is people hear, we have plenty of water, don't panic, and yet on the other side, we're fighting to get as much withdrawal permit as we can. And then suddenly, you see 40Bs popping up, 300 units on Summer Street. You hear about the Linden Court area. You know that Kraft has been near Cobble Knoll Drive looking at the water tanks and all that happiness and the land in there that would connect directly. How 40Bs on Burns, 40Bs on Dupee. You've got the development up by Renmar. You've got all of this taking place in Walpole. And if these developers don't seem unhappy with the withdrawal permit being because they're hearing that we got plenty of water on the other side. This is the quintessential definition of a functional dichotomy.
it is just strange that we argue left hand, right hand. This board has to start taking into its consideration several things. One of which is, what is the truth? What is the capacity? What is our limitation to it, if any? And then take all your rules, regulations, and guide them in that direction. And I don't mean this in a belligerent way, but the last time I believe Mr. Hassenjagger had a relationship with this developer, yeah, I think you didn't vote on this particular article. Would that maintain the same tonight, or whenever you vote?
I don't think you're portraying my comments correctly. I just made a notation that I knew the gentleman. I had no business relationship with him, so I feel I'm free to decide whether I'm needed to vote on this or not.
Okay, and I don't mean to be disrespectful, but did you not abstain in that conversation?
I'm not sure.
Look it up.
I don't think I did.
I don't recall what you did.
Anyway, you know the
I
situation.
just made affirmative disclosure.
And I thank you for allowing me the opportunity to speak.
Anyone else? Okay.
Can I just make
Yes, you
some
can.
short follow-up comments?
Sure.
Probably used up most of my time tonight, but I'm just circling back to just a few things that Mr. Moraski brought up, and he did bring up some excellent points. But I wanted to point out, first of all, that Walpole Police and Fire specifically requested to be the first responders. That's not something that was pushed on them. That's what they wanted. Likewise, Walpole Building Department requested to issue the building permit, I think partially because they have more expertise in this area, but also, it's obviously a fee-generating area for the town as well. The 10% fee that's going to the town of Sharon is being paid directly by the applicant. The other thing I just want to make very clear when we talk about how much usage a hotel uses and whether we want that much usage going outside of the town, 55% of the hotel is in Walpole. So that piece of it is a by right use, and that is in Walpole. The site is what it is. It's split halfway between Walpole and Sharon. We can't change that. So this is a very unique situation. It's a high-profile site, right on a corner. It's not being utilized right now. There's very little chance for any sort of development that does not straddle the town line. And so in order for this particular site to be developed, this is the way it needs to happen, and this is the way it can bring revenue to the town of Walpole. Otherwise, as Mr. Moffett pointed out, it's going to sit with nothing other than the existing Applebee's. We're not here to debate Foxborough or Mr. Kraft or anything like that. I'm here for this piece of property and this hotel, which is 55% located in Walpole. So we are talking about, and the entrance is in Walpole. So we are talking about a Walpole use, a portion of which happens to be in Sharon.
Okay. One thing that I would just say, you're correct. We do service a number of homes in Norfolk, Sharon. The problem, these have been there for decades. These are not recent things. The town line runs down the middle of the street through front yards and whatever, and there was no water. How the decision was made, and it literally was decades ago in both cases. The case with Dover, I believe we have a state law that tells us we have to service them as a result of the Texaco gas leak. The only thing that I could find of recent where we supplied water to an outside was the Herb Chambers, which is totally outside. I wasn't on the board at the time, so I can't speak to what the rationale was. But other than that, even with this hotel here, we said when it was proposed in Sharon, the answer was no. We have no interest in supplying, in the case of the McDonald's in Foxborough, we have no interest, and told the developer that we didn't have any interest in supplying sewer to them. So particularly with the DEP tightening our water withdrawal, we have no incentive to do it. And if this hotel was not in Walpole are having right to water, which we did say no to them originally, so. Did you have a last comment, John?
Yeah, I have a couple, actually, since my name was brought up. I find it ironic, Mr. Snuffer is alluding to the crisis of water, since I recall his votes as a selectman purporting that there's plenty of water for the projects that were approved by the Board of Selectmen in the town of Walpole, and opposing in town meeting our efforts to hook up to the MWA water, which is kind of ironic that when we were taking proactive measures to try to bring additional water to the town, he was vehemently opposed in his lecture at town meeting. And Mr. Moraski is quoting us from the town report. I'm not sure who drafted the actual language of that, but I think it's misportrayed, Joe, that you suggest that the Water Commission somehow portrayed the withdrawal permit issue when basically we're trying to, again, try to be proactive in planning and providing water for the needs of the economic development of the community, which is what our job is, not to withhold water and make it a scarce resource or use it as a weapon in anti-development activity. And you were also opposed to our efforts to really develop water supply. And now you're here trying to point the finger at us. The advocacy by Mr. Snuffer or the Siemens project and all the water that went to that particular venture, and the comments at those hearings about profuse availability of water to allow Siemens to come into the town. So I consider most of those comments political in nature.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, you brought up Herb Chambers as, for some reason. As you know, Herb Chambers is a dealership on Route 1 that is in Sharon, and I think partially in Walpole. Basically, the difference is that Herb Chambers basically had a few bathrooms that they wanted to connect to Walpole. Very, very minor. And their water use is very minor. They use irrigation for a lot of their, whatever, their lawns or car washing or whatever they do. So that's a whole different story. But next door to Herb Chambers, the owners of that property came to us with a proposal for, I think it was 440 Bs. You may remember that. And the Sewer and Water Commission, we couldn't justify that kind of a situation. This one here, as Mr. Moraski points out, it is a kind of a lot of drain on our water. And right now, Bernie, we're in a good position.
Yeah.
But it doesn't always stay that way. And there comes a time when we will have a drought like we have in the past. So we have to be very careful about the water part.
All right.
One-
Make it short. 'Cause
Okay, well,
we've
there's an
beaten the horse
Economic
to death.
Development Commission in the town too, and part of, this hotel could easily go down to Linden Place and be part of the Foxborough development and pay their taxes there, and Walpole gets nothing out of it. Our neighbors have all developed Route 1 profusely, and we have been delinquent in developing Route 1 as we should be part of our commercial tax base. And as a member of that commission, I'd rather see this hotel in Walpole and get revenue from it than see it in Foxborough and get nothing out of it. And I think that, again, politicians and government likes to make everything a scarce resource so they can sell it back to the public and justify their positions in government. But our job is to develop water and to promote economic development and promote commercial tax base in the town, as well as serve the residential community. And those should be our efforts, not rejecting good projects that enhance Route 1 and the synergy of our business community. It's a good location for a hotel, in my opinion, and I don't see anything wrong with the project.
Okay. I'll entertain a motion one way or another to,
I'll make a motion, Mr.
Yes.
Chairman, that we approve the agreements in front of us for Alcohol hospitality,
okay? Both sewer and water?
both sewer and water.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
All right. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? No. And so it's a 3-2 in favor of both agreements. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm gonna take a moment, Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
Continue with them.
No, we'll wait for... All right. Our next one will be Mr. Bernardino. You're the New Pond Village. Give you an opportunity to set up.
Mary, do we have New Pond Village stuff?
I would never
You
do
gotta be
that.
kidding me.
I would never do
Oh,
that.
my Lord, this thing, what is this way?
Almost as much as me.
I don't know, Bernie, I don't know. You get any dinner, I won't be able to see you.
We might still be on camera, so we gotta be,
Yes.
behave.
Yes, we are on camera.
We have to behave.
Do we?
Yes,
He's turned the camera off.
He has not.
Oh, no, no, no.
It's gonna be held here afterward.
Yep. Yeah, this is our 8 o'clock appointment. I got my... As soon as we get our members back, we'll continue. If you want to, can you hold the
Talk amongst yourselves.
camera, or do you have to keep it running?
Have to keep going.
Okay, not a problem.
No, just while we're waiting, these two articles you guys said to take up, have you taken them up yet? Sorry, I'm late.
No.
Have we taken them up? No.
Okay.
I was holding it until you arrived.
Okay.
So what we have remain is our 8 o'clock, which Mr. Bernardino is setting up, and then 8:30 Rolls Royce, I don't know, and he's here also. And then,
Is it Eric?
Yes.
Okay.
okay, and we're just waiting for John to...
John's debating with Mr. Boraski in the hallway, so.
Can't wait for debating.
Discussing, I don't know if they're debating or not.
John, we're gonna start.
Yeah.
Grief. Do we have a locus
Ah.
here? Anything?
It's the New Pond Village.
Yeah, but it's Bullet Street on here.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Should
okay.
let New Pond Village go.
I need to see you.
It's gonna be like 2 minutes, right?
Sheet number 6 is a good one for an overview.
You know where it is, right, Pat?
It's gotta be, well, it's gotta be someplace here.
What, oh, it's this area right here.
Okay, where's the-
Mylod Street comes here, there's a Sunoco gas station right
Yeah.
here, and the Norwood line is...
The convalescent area?
Yeah, there's a little restaurant on the corner of Bullitt.
A bar.
Yeah,
What was that? Did I misspeak?
and it's a, you know,
It's gonna be
assisted
a...
living...
I know, my brother was there.
Oh, boy.
All right, so you know where it is.
I don't.
Could
I'm
you
saying-
even imagine?
I didn't think there was any land.
No, they're...
I'm curious about where the, how many buildings are you building?
We're proposing to construct one building addition
Yeah.
connected to the large infrastructure that's there now. About
So-
15,000 square feet, 3 stories.
If we can just hold it,
Okay, I
you'll
just
have to...
I just wanted to get,
Yeah.
I didn't see any land there, but when I was looking here, I saw different buildings.
Jim, you haven't changed since the,
No,
okay.
no, it hasn't changed. We did an order,
Since-
amended
since you-
order of conditions, but nothing to do with water changes or anything.
Okay.
Okay.
I just wanted to make sure that you haven't, yeah, okay.
All right,
Very good.
we have everybody back, so you can start.
Good evening, members of the commission. My name is Jim Berlino with Bowler Engineering, representing the applicant that's currently in front of both Planning Board and Conservation Commission for an expansion of the New Pond Village senior care facility. What's being proposed currently is, for those that aren't aware of the facility, we're located off Main Street to the north side and to the east, Bowler Street. The far north and west of the site, or west, is Willis Pond. Currently, we have a existing facility, which is the senior care facility, which basically houses assisted living as well as independent living. Also, on the same parcel, even though it's divided, it's part of the overall property, is a nursing home, which is a separate entity. There's no modifications to what's being proposed on that today. The proposal is to add on, in addition to the south side of the existing building, which is seen here outlined in green. Highlighted pink is the proposed addition, which is approximately 15,000 square feet in footprint, 3 stories, so we're about 45,000 square feet in gross floor area there. We're proposing 39 new independent living units on the property. I'd like to know, back in 1985, somewhere in the mid-80s, this facility was approved for 250 independent living units. Or a combination of independent as well as assisted living units. We're under that 250 unit number right now. Right now, we're presently 199 units. And we're proposing to add 47 to that, 39 being in here. Then also on the north property, we are adding 8 units in sets of duplexes. Now, obviously, we have associated parking modifications and things of that nature that we're currently reviewing with the planning board through their site plan review process. But to hone in on the items that directly are related to your commission, we're looking at, first we'll talk about the water. Presently, the site is fed by a 12-inch main that's looped from Main Street up to Butler Street. From that, we have a 12-inch spur that loops around on itself, that runs around the perimeter of the building, which currently services the existing facility. Now, as part of the development, in dark blue here, we have an existing 8-inch line that's part of that loop behind the building. We're going to need to be relocating that. So we're going to be relocating that approximately 80 feet or so to the south of the site. So we're going to maintain the same size, 8-inch, going to move it over. We're going to install an independent service to this building. We're not going to be pulling off the water service of the existing building. We're trying to keep them architecturally as 2 separate buildings, even though they're joined from fire code issues, building code compliance, and the like. So we're going to be proposing a 6-inch water service as well as a 6-inch fire service for this building. Final size to be determined once the mechanical engineers and the fire protection engineers are getting in, but the original or the initial calculations are showing that we're going to have 6-inch services for both the domestic as well as the fire. In the back of the property, we are going to have individual services to each of those units. So we're going to have 8 individual services to each living unit. And these living units, I like to add, are just 3-bedroom units. It might be a little excessive for independent living as you're starting to retire and downsize, but this is a stepping stone for the people that are downsizing, the empty nesters that they don't want to go into a big facility yet, but they're one step closer. In addition to the service, the domestic service to each of those units, we are proposing a fire service as well. We're working with the fire department, and as part of being good neighbors and the like, we thought it would be a good idea to follow some of the recommendations of the fire department. We're going to be sprinkling each one of those independent units.
That's great.
So that will be part of the final submission and applications that will be in front for site plan review.
I don't think we talked about the sprinkler lines before, but,
When we met, we did speak of them, saying that we wanted individual lines.
Okay.
So we did that. They're not sized at this point.
okay, so that's why we didn't
That's why
calc
we
them.
didn't get into great detail.
Okay,
Because,
okay.
originally, we weren't sure if they were going to be water sprinklered or if they were gonna have some sort of,
Dry.
dry chemical, fire suppression system. But they will be, water sprinklered. So the architect will be working with the fire suppression engineer to size those accordingly. Based on our discussions with staff, we haven't heard or are aware of any capacity or deficiency issues as it relates to the water supply. So we do feel that the addition, even though it may seem large, it's a very low intensity use as your senior residents. Now, with the proposed proposed wastewater, we currently have an 8-inch wastewater trunk main going right down the middle of the site. Discharging the leach. We're going to be connecting by a gravity service from the new building right directly into the water service. Along the back of the property here, this is pretty much almost the low spot of the site. So we're going to have individual services, sewer services for all of the condo buildings there, or townhouse style buildings.
How many units are in each square?
Each square is 2, so 2, 4, 6, 8. So they're 8 3-bedroom units.
Are those, your typical units, like, they buy into the association?
Yes.
Is that, those the same thing, or are you selling those?
No, these are the same things, they're all gonna be under the same umbrella. So you come in and you pay your fee, whatever the dollar amount's gonna be, you pay your fee, you are in the program. Now, you're in the program for so many years, you're guaranteed a space in here when your time comes and when you're ready. And likewise, you go from this to an independent living, kitchenette, and then you go to a assisted living, which is more, we would rely more on the amenities and the services that we provide.
I've already counted.
As I was mentioning, that individual sewer services for each of these lots, we have 6 services, we're going to combine them into a small pump chamber. We're going to use a duplex style E1 low pressure chamber, which will be connected to the emergency power of the building. So we'll have to have some intercommunications with that, because the building does have emergency power already. We just need to feed off of that. We're going to eject up to the high spot of the site and discharge it into the existing gravity sewer from there. Proposed flows, this back area here, just over 2,600 gallons a day based on the bedroom count, which is, I think, very high based on the Title V's. We know there are only going to be 2, maybe a couple living in a 3-bedroom home. But based on the Title V calculations, a little over 2,600 cubic gallons per day, 2,600 gallons per day. Likewise, the additional
39 units?
39 units, 4,650, so 4,650 gallons per day, based on the Title V flows. Now, these are, for the units that as themselves, like to mention, and once again, that we were approved for 250 units in this building as it was back in the 1980s. So there's area in there that can be fit out and just enhance or enlarge the number of units within that building. But the new owners benchmark senior living that's taken over this facility likes to provide some additional amenities. They have a bingo room, a theater room, things of that nature that are taking up real estate within the building, but still want to maintain that number and the diversity of the different types of floor plans that they offer. So that, in a nutshell, is where we stand. We're in front of the planning board for site plan approval. We're in front of the Conservation Commission for amended order of conditions. The Conservation Commission did initially approve the property by issuing an order of conditions, but we've subsequently worked a few things out with the fire department. They requested that we add some, or widen some of the fire access around the building, which actually worked within the buffer zones, and some of it was within the 25-foot no disturb zone of the Conservation Commission. So, working with the Concom staff, they thought it would be more appropriate to have an amended order of conditions rather than just a administrative approval, de minimis change. So with that said,
Jim, if I might I just want to clarify one thing. You touched on this, but we're permitted for 250 units. With the expansion, we're going up to 247, is that right? So we're
Correct.
Still below the number that we've already.
I was wondering why you were still here.
Yeah, I wondered that too.
You were afraid we were going to vote and change our earlier vote?
I'm here for this one.
I had the same thought.
Reconsideration, that could come.
There is a, the planning board is asking, you know, for our comments on a revised site plans, and I'm just curious, is there, what is the change since June when we last addressed this? Is there,
since June.
it's related to water and sewer.
As it relates to water and sewer, I actually was able to meet with staff.
Yeah.
We went through, there was a number of comments regarding how our services fed the building. Previously, I was coming off with a loop.
Right.
I had individual services off of that. Now, that's no longer proposed. We actually have our individual services directly to the main. So we have 8 new taps.
Okay.
Rather than spurring off with the 6 and then having our taps off.
He's not finished. Go ahead.
Yeah, not quite. Down at the end, there was some configuration as far as how we were proposing our fire service and our domestic service. Previously, we had, you know, 1 line spurring off the main, but now we're proposing 2
Okay.
over valves. So I believe we took those notes that were from Bernie,
Yep.
as well as Maggie when she was here, and we incorporated those in. So it was more refinement to address the technical comments that were part of, you know, the ongoing.
Yeah, because it looked familiar, and I was just wondering
Yeah.
whether they,
From a
planning board was asking because you,
Yeah.
you know, you're gonna have different wallpaper paste
Yeah.
or something, in which case, all right,
There's
nothing's changed
no-
for us.
yeah. From a layout standpoint, there's really no, there's just de minimis change. But we did address a lot of the technical questions as, you know, subsequent to, you know, the meetings with the staff.
All right, I'll start over here.
Yeah.
Pat, if you got any questions,
Well,
then I'll just run through.
I really like the idea that those standalone units have the sewer and water separate connections. As you probably heard, we've had trouble with that. But, and I don't see anything wrong with this project at all. The only thing I just want to ask you is, do you have rights to New Pond water rights?
No, we do not. We do not apply.
Because I was asking, it looks like you did, the way what I was looking at here. But do you can't use New Pond for irrigation?
No, not that I'm
That's
aware
too
of.
bad.
How come you also have the?
Because I asked for them here.
He sits in a
And-
key spot, John. He gets first crack at the plan.
Yeah, it does.
And truthfully, I don't know if that would be an option. New Pond does have a very active community as well as an association. So we've been working with them as far as impacts to their view, impacts to the buffer zones and the wetlands and our stormwater and the like. So they were very involved during the review process, and they're still actively involved as well. But I believe we've worked with them to provide the appropriate drainage responses to them to enhance
No, I'm
water
not gonna buy the
quality,
one next door.
or the discharge off the
Forget
site
it.
stormwater wise, as well as landscaping and limit of
No, they're out
disturbance of the existing wooded area to provide, you know, aesthetics for them with appropriate vegetation and buffers.
What's the total area of the site?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's just that, not to belabor the point too much.
Just over 29 acres.
Do you ever think of putting in wells for
We have not-
irrigation purposes?
We have not discussed that option with,
And just, you have, you know, a nice piece piece of property there, and just thought you might want to irrigate it. Okay, that's it.
John?
I'm all set.
John? Glenn?
Comments, not for me.
Looks good.
Okay. I entertain a motion that we send a letter to the planning board that we have no additional comments other than what we sent back in June.
I'd like the comment in there
Second.
saying that if he could use his own water irrigation, that'd be nice.
Okay,
Seconded.
all right. The motion seconded.
The comment, Mr. Fasenello's comment, sounds good to
Okay.
me. Yeah.
Are you,
I'll amend the motion to include Mr.
okay.
Fasenello's
Can we
comment.
have a second? Did you get a second, Mary?
I thought Glenn seconded it.
Okay, well, I'm making an amended motion now.
Okay. Do we have a second to the amendment motion? Okay, now we've got it. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So voted. Okay, and running almost
See,
an
some
hour
are
late.
easy.
They don't all take an hour and a half.
No.
It was an 8 o'clock appointment, right?
This is, yeah, that was an 8 o'clock.
The later it gets, the faster they go.
That's true. Yeah.
That's the way it works at town meeting. Okay. This is the Rolls Royce.
Yes, I'm doing that.
Fine.
And maybe if you could just put it, your, thing just on the other side and sort of angle it so that,
No,
well,
Mr. Chairman, you're gonna keep you in.
hey, I sat there. I know. Yes, as long as,
Oh, I can't see anything.
yeah. That's,
Don't go away, John.
This has changed.
we got thumbs up.
That's fine.
Patrick,
Okay.
the water line has changed on this, just to let you know. Okay.
Going
It's just changed.
Okay.
Let him go through.
Good, my name's Eric Cordes, I'm from Narragansett Engineering, representing Walpole Green.
Where's Narragansett Engineering? What's before that?
So, Walpole Green is on southwest side of Norfolk Street. They currently have a site of 21 acres and currently about 79,000 square feet of building on the property, office building, 2 manufacturing buildings, another small manufacturing building, 3 of them. We're working on doing proposing an expansion of the existing, they call it the Blade Center, works on the towers for marine vessels. To add existing. To add into there another 30,000 square feet of manufacturing and indoor storage and work area for materials. And an area to store dumpsters and forklift equipment undercover. So over in the far corner of the site, taking out about 30,000 square feet of pavement, putting in about 21,000, so reducing the outside pavement. Some of that storage space is going inside, also 2 machines, 2 restrooms, about 10 employees in this expansion. The site is served by a sewer lateral that runs, the town owns, it comes to an easement to the property. And then there's a existing lateral running off of that existing sanitary service that runs to serve the existing building 3. We're going to add into it and bring our lateral into an existing manhole on the site, which will then flow into the town manhole on the right of way. For water, there's a 12-inch water main in the street. This side of the site is served by an 8-inch water line coming off the main. The proposal that we had for the board had the water service actually running through the building and then out to an additional hydrant. And in conversations with the staff engineer and Mr. Marshall, said it was a better idea. We're going to run the sewer, run the water line on the outside of the building out to this proposed hydrant to provide additional fire service protection for the building.
existing sewer lateral, existing water service, and that's a 2-inch line, and the existing sprinkler service, that's a 6-inch line. They're gonna be continued through this building and sort of this addition here. As far as water loads are concerned, we calculate it's about 220 gallons a day. 10 employees, there's very little usage. Besides that, there's 2 bathrooms. There's a shower in the bathrooms, but they generally do not get used. There's an emergency shower as well. There's 2 drops that run to CNC machines to make water. One drop is going to go into the corner here where they do a dye penetrant test with a water soluble dye, and then that gets washed off the part. It's collected and goes into a storage tank, which is then pumped, trucked off-site for disposal. So the only sanitary load is going to be the bathrooms and the sink in the break room, and running to the sanitary sewer.
Okay. I have a question. This is in our aquifer area. Are there new hazardous chemicals going to be involved?
No change in the processes or anything.
Okay.
Is this building attached to the other building?
It's attached to the other building.
It's integral, there's no,
It's gonna be connected. There'll
it's
be
the
a
same,
firewall
you
between
can walk
the
through
two,
them?
but there'll be a doorway to run parts and machinery.
Because you connected the sewers to a common manhole.
We're coming manhole here.
Yeah.
Yep, so right now there's existing, and we're gonna put a proposed.
Okay.
And then that line runs out.
Is there an addition of impervious surface?
There is an addition of impervious surface on the outside.
Okay, I heard you say you were taking over some of the parking lot.
We're taking out about 30,000 square feet. We're putting in about 20,000 done as far as paving.
Manufacturing.
Manufacturing.
It's actually about 50,000.
Don't know.
I remember might be wrong, but there was an increase in impervious of about 3,000. But we had 2 rather large stormwater basins that actually reduced runoff from the site and increased infiltration.
Okay, that's good.
So we're on smaller storms, we're doing a marketed increase in infiltration, about 70% increase. On the larger storms, the increase is about 30%.
This is a manufacturing facility,
Yes,
right in this spot you're putting on. Is that,
yes.
what are you using it for?
They make propeller blades.
No, I mean, is it, are you building something there? Building machines or?
They're milling propellers.
They're milling propellers.
They actually make propellers.
And.
Well, I think they refurbish existing propellers.
Right.
So the propellers come off the ships, they come in,
Yep.
they have to do that at.
They get refurbished or something?
They get sort of
Okay.
checked and sent back out.
And I'm curious, you have drains on the floor?
No.
No drain?
The only drain is in the corner of the washdown area.
I'm sorry, say it
There's
again.
one drain.
Yeah,
It's gonna be in the corner where they do a dye to test the welds on the propeller. And then that dye is collected and pumped to a storage tank.
okay, so.
It's not a floor drain to a.
It's a tight
sanitary.
tank,
It's a sealed
Right.
drain, basically, tight tank, yes.
okay,
So there's no miscellaneous floor drains in the floor.
I got you,
anywhere.
all right.
John?
Who's Joanne, are you representing this? Oh. Who's the president of this company?
Oh, well, I really don't know.
You haven't met him? Would you tell him he should come to the Chamber of Commerce and interact with the rest of the business community? We'd like to know them. I'd love to have a site visit, even though it has really nothing to do with this water line, because I'm intrigued how they do that with the propellers. And we promote economic development and businesses coming to town. It's nice we know what they do, so we can maybe get somebody else who's related to that or supplies them with whatever.
Give me an invite, I'll
Do we
come.
still, Scott, do we
Yeah,
still
tell them
sample?
we'd like a site
still
visit
sample them?
and come to the Chamber of
You have to
Commerce.
bring your best.
I was gonna say, it's huge security, John, just to let you know.
Heavily restricted.
It's Department of Defense.
Oh, I can pass security, don't worry.
I used to when I first
They
worked
didn't
for
ask me.
Walpole, I used to sample in there, and I used to have to show ID and everything, and you could only go a certain point, so.
That's okay, I can do it.
Are they going to vacate the
John, do you want
property that
this?
they currently occupy on Runmar Road when they construct it?
That has not been determined yet. What's gonna happen here.
Okay. Mr. Spillane, any questions, comments?
No, sir.
Okay. Glenn?
No, I'm okay, thanks.
Okay. John, are you through?
Thanks for the call today.
I'm good.
Okay. All right, this is a request from the planning board for comments.
There is one last thing.
What? Go ahead, Pat.
You're adding parking areas?
Yes, about, it's around 20-ish
Okay.
parking spots.
And as you know, this is a pretty sensitive water area.
Yes.
How are you de-icing? How are you, you know, sanding or putting salt down?
It's gonna be sand,
Okay.
yeah. Yep, and then they got a street sweeping program twice a year to sweep the parking lots afterwards.
Okay.
All right, I will make a motion that we send to the planning board that we concur with the town engineer's comments. They're in his letter of September 18th of 2019. Is
I'll
there
second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstained? Okay,
Okay, have a good evening.
yes,
Thank you.
Thank you.
okay.
We do
No,
have
no,
a, we
not
do have a
yet.
comment request.
No more customers tonight, Joanne?
No, we got an item that has popped up after the agenda.
Mr. Chairman, just real quick, we have a comment request on Optima from the Board of Appeals.
No, we can't. We can't. No, we can't. If the chairman, I'll have the wording.
I saw it.
Yes.
Anything that has to be.
Yes, if any
We can
matters
discuss it,
arising
we can't
within
vote on it.
48 hours
John, we'll
of the
get you out of
change
there, I
not
swear.
anticipated as being discussed,
We'll
we
get you out
can
of
do
here.
it. We can continue, and we
Let's go real quick here.
wish to go into executive session. We want to discuss, and I'll read the reason for going into executive session would be to consider the purchase, exchange, lease, or value of real estate if the chair declares that in an open meeting may have detrimental effect on the negotiating position of the public body. This is the,
Just one recommendation is, you have two articles that you're sponsoring.
Right.
The I-9 one, that you can vote favorable,
Well,
favorable action on that one.
the I&I one,
Yeah, the MW.
Yeah, the MWRA.
oh, we
The
already
language-
voted on our approval on that one. Yes.
Okay.
Tonight?
Not tonight.
No, not tonight, but in a previous
Okay.
500.
Okay.
So the executive session is only dealing with Article 12, I believe it is. on the-
Yes.
Okay, let me continue.
Yeah, would you
So
please?
the chair so declares. The body does not intend to come back after we take care of the executive session.
Okay.
So you'll have to cut or do you want to?
Yeah, take it over.
Okay.
What's this about, anyway?
This is for the Darren Lane, the parcel that's,
We can't vote on it tonight.
yes, we can.
Yes, we
You
can.
said we got it tonight.
No.
I don't see
There's
that.
been plenty of discussion. Anyways,
Can I just ask a quick question?
I haven't seen
So we
this.
need to come back to publicly vote on whatever we decide in executive session?
I mean, if you're gonna, the finance committee's more or less waiting on you
yes, I know.
to figure out how they're going to vote.
We can't vote in executive.
And
Well,
I would recommend
You come out?
come out to vote
Okay.
on whatever you're gonna vote on.
You're gonna have to stay then. Okay, we'll take the roll to go into executive session. What?
Yeah,
No,
he's going.
He wants to take the roll on the camera, and then he'll shut it down. Okay.
Glenn,
So,
Glenn Maffey, yes, aye.
John Swain, aye.
Bill Abbott, aye,
What?
to go into executive session.
Aye.
We are now out of executive session. Did you need that on roll, on camera?
No, that's fine.
Okay.
Motion adjourned.
We have a motion to adjourn. Is there a
Second.
second? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed?